very special tomorrow as well. This is South Africa.
It's a country where the latest developments are joining forces with the traditions of old.
Welcome to Cape Town. We're at the start of an amazing journey across this vast country, finding out about the latest in science and technology here in South Africa. And this is the first stop.
We'll discover how the newest developments are building on the oldest traditions here. As this country continues its incredible transformation, we'll look at the role science has to play.
Modern medicine learns the secrets of traditional remedies in the search for a treatment for tuberculosis.
Extreme crime, extreme solutions. Meet the inventor whose shocking answer to stealing is to blast criminals.
And how traditional trackers are using office technology to help save South Africa's rhinos. The first part of our journey takes us to Cape Town's cricket stadium, Newlands. South Africa's sports mad, and they take their test matches very seriously.
We're here to see them play the West Indies. The South African team are a hot bet for the World Cup, but here the search is already on for the next generation of great cricketing heroes. A bowler to match the likes of the West Indies, Curtly Ambrose.
In the old apartheid era, black and coloured players weren't allowed anywhere near the national teams. But in this new era for South Africa, a much more level playing field is being slowly introduced so that players of all colours can rise through to the highest ranks of cricket.
Now, every team needs a couple of very good fast bowlers to win matches. And to help the country's youth achieve this, South Africa is turning increasingly to science to help build the next army of cricketing champions. They're scouring the townships for the raw black talent that might give South Africa a new bowling hero. I'm here for a local practice session in Langa, where teenagers like Simpiwe have got big hopes for the future. What is your dream? What is your big dream?
My big dream is to be playing for South Africa. I wish I could play for the national team, you see.
The trouble is, in the past, young fast bowlers in the townships have had little training, and great bowling talent was often crippled early by back injury. If your bowling action is wrong, you can twist and damage your back. Sports scientists know this, but they have never properly analysed bowling action to work out which factors can make bowling damaging. Here in Cape Town, they're pioneering a new project to do just that. Janine Gray works regularly with the South African national squad. Now she's mustering technology to help the bowlers from the townships. This includes cameras which pump out infrared light, and bizarrely, the technology also involves decorating your body with white luminous balls. This is the first time a system like this one has been used for cricket anywhere in the world. There are 6 cameras like this one strategically placed down the crease. These little balls reflect the light back to the cameras. That's then sent to the computer, and it uses these reflective markers to track my movements as I bowl the ball. Because there are 6 camera angles, the data can be captured in 3D. This helps Janine discover far more about the enormous forces acting on Simpiwe. She thinks her method can analyse any problem, catch it early, and help prevent injury.
We actually have a picture of the young bowlers bowling. We look at various angles of foot placement, shoulder alignment, pelvic alignment to fully understand the stresses that are placed on the lower back in doing so.
The main thing Janine is looking at is how the back rotates during bowling, because this causes the real damage. It seems like a rather expensive and troublesome way to see how a bowler bowls. Surely you can see by just watching him throw the ball.
Not really, no. What happens in the delivery stride happens within a second. And a lot of the important rotation, shear forces which happen at the back cannot be seen with the naked eye. Simpiwe, he has a fantastic action. He has a classic side-on action, which means there's very little rotation happening at his lumbar spine.
Right, so it's all pretty steady, nothing roughing or pulling, the ball's going smoothly.
That's it.
Good news for St. Pee-wee, but if players are bowling incorrectly, she can correct the problem with their coaches. Janine is taking her work on from here, and over the next 5 years we'll be closely studying a group of young fast bowlers, helping them avoid serious injury early in their careers, and maybe even giving them the chance to play test match cricket in an incredible ground like Newlands. We're leaving Cape Town behind now on the first leg of our journey across South Africa.
We're travelling on board this, the country's most famous train. It's called the Blue Train and it's heading northeast.
We leave the coast behind as we head out through the mountains and vineyards into the Karoo Desert.
Here in southern Africa, bushmen have been tracking animals, studying and reading their footprints for thousands of years. But as their communities develop, this art is dying out as it's no longer being passed on from one generation to the next. Well, now space-age technology is coming to the rescue of this dying practice and helping endangered species at the same time. It's being pioneered here in the Karoo Desert.
This national park is home to all kinds of animals, but some of them are hard to find, including the endangered black rhino. Louis Liebenberg can tell a lot about animals and what they get up to just by the traces they leave. He's learnt the ancient art of tracking and wants to make sure it doesn't die out. He thinks tracking can be used to help tell us a lot about animal behaviour. Out on a hike, Louis shows me evidence of a lizard that's been eating tortoise eggs.
See the tail marks and the claws marks here?
Oh, I see, where his tail swept the ground.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it actually can identify the species of animal. You can say what it was doing from the way it was moving. It started digging up the eggs here.
So you can actually tell what an animal's been doing from tracking it?
Yeah, on this day, at this particular point, a rock lizard ate the tortoise shells here.
Because the eggs are still fresh, Louis is convinced they're a recent lunch, so says we can track the lizard itself by following its footprints.
So this is him. This is who we've been tracking.
Yeah.
Who's got a belly full of eggs.
Louis believes a huge amount of information about animal behaviour could be gathered from tracks. But he can't do that on his own, so he's turning to people working in the park who already have the traditional skills of the tracker. Nobody is able to take advantage of their knowledge at the moment because it's been difficult to record what they find. But Louis is finding a way to help them.
Louis is turning to technology. He's using one of these, a palm-top computer. Now, back at home, we'd use this kind of thing for diaries, appointments, telephone numbers, that sort of thing. But Louis is reprogramming them for the trackers so that they can use their skills to new purposes, like monitoring animals.
JJ is one of the first trackers to be given a palm-top computer Louis has customised. He can now use it to note sightings or tracks and record animal behaviour.
So, JJ, you're using it. What kind of questions does it ask you?
When you see the animal or when you're tracking, and what kind of an animal do you see? That you just touch this. They ask you what the female or the male, and you touch that one. They ask you is they running or they feeding or they whatever they do, and they take a GPS reading, and that's it.
A global positioning satellite system means that JJ can store the exact position of any track. So this palm-top computer can help look after endangered species by recording what animals are up to from their tracks without actually having to see them. JJ's keeping track on a black rhino.
So, begin.
Yes.
He lets me have a go inputting our finding.
And pictures of animals, okay, so you can tell which one the rhino is. Okay, and what was he doing at the time? Just walking. And now the GPS is activated.
That's right.
That's fantastic.
The rhino JJ is tracking is new to the park, and he's building a complex picture of its habits from his day-to-day tracking with this system. So we head back to base to add today's information about the rhino to the computer.
What's quite interesting is that he's been feeding in areas where the other rhinos have not been feeding, and also different plant species. So it seems that he's still trying to find his way around.
So because he's new, he's kind of experimenting?
Yeah.
Is that good or bad?
Well, it's actually quite interesting because it's a new rhino in a new environment, so it's quite important to monitor it quite intensively.
So you're going to have to keep an eye on him to
Yeah.
check he's getting a good enough diet?
Yeah.
And you'd never have known that without that information?
No.
Great thing about this system is that normally a biologist would only come into the park about 5 days a year to study one particular species. But this way, trackers like JJ are on the ground making hundreds of observations about lots of different types of animals every day. So conservationists have masses more information to work on when they're making important decisions about how to manage the wildlife.
Still to come on this special Tomorrow's World, could one of these local plants be the key in the global fight against a killer disease?
And building a game park from scratch, meet the elephants who've been moved from one end of South Africa to the other.
But first, we travel to the crime capital of the world, Johannesburg. This city has seen a massive explosion in crime. In the last 4 years, robbery has doubled and the number of assaults has risen by 40%. In fact, you're 8 times more likely to be murdered in South Africa than in America. This police video shows the common crime of car hijacking. A 3-man gang surround a car at a road junction in broad daylight, threaten the driver with a gun, then get in and force him to drive off. This driver was later fortunate to escape unharmed, but it's crimes like these which are fueling fear in the city.
It's quite sad that it becomes almost natural that you have to always think about crime before taking a step.
When I go to the office at night, I have a .38 revolver, and I mean, if God forbid someone tries me, I'll just shoot him through the door.
No, they broke into the house and they take the furniture.
Tension is heightened by locals being constantly bombarded with stories of terrible crimes. Even the local paper has a daily crime page, which makes quite horrific reading. A man here shot in his home by an intruder. Another guy here shot 4 times just for his mobile phone. It's a situation that's causing people to panic and driving many to more extreme measures to fight this spectre of crime. New devices are being developed here to fight back. I'm heading off to meet one inventor who is extremely concerned about all the crime stories he reads. Former lawyer Charles Ferry is taking the law into his own hands. He's inventing new devices to deal with this crime wave. He's come up with a burglary prevention system for his house. But it's not just an alarm. It's a device which can cause serious injury. Here, the future meets the past, harking back to the days when castles were protected by pots of flaming tar. Inside this briefcase is what Charles Ferry calls a mobile home protection device. Once set, a primitive motion sensor detects any movement and triggers this massive gas jet flame. What exactly is this?
This is a house unit to protect the person in your house. Works as follows. Electrical unit that gives a spark here on the nozzle. Solenoid valve on top of this gas bottle will open. Liquid gas will flow through these pipes, exiting here, giving you a ball of fire that will incapacitate any intruder in the house.
It's a flamethrower in a briefcase.
Exactly.
Such a system seems horrific to me. A device like this could cause serious burns. I find it depressing that he feels the crime situation is this bad. But what's more, Charles Ferry believes this technology could be taken out on the road. This is no ordinary car. It's a weapon. And some people, like Charles Ferry, will tell you it's a necessary weapon for self-defense. Whatever it is, it's potentially lethal. This device aims to stop a car hijacking. A high-voltage spark ignites gas from a tank stored in the boot. A foot pedal triggers the system. Ferry assures me the paintwork isn't damaged. My concern is about the harm that could be done to people on the street. However, he thinks this is the correct response to crime.
If you drive in your driveway or your wife drive there, and you're on the verge of being attacked and raped, would you or would you not prefer your wife to have the system in a car? And your obvious answer is yes. And if you're against the system, you're actually fighting for the criminals.
Is it legal?
Perfectly legal. The very first person to have installed this in the car is Superintendent David Walkley. He's the head of crime intelligence of the South African Police for the Johannesburg area, and he stated many, many times that if used in self-defense, it's perfectly legal.
It's very doubtful that in Britain such a device would be legal, necessary or welcome. But what do the locals think of it, given the fear of violent crime?
In the first place, I would need to know, won't it have any effect on the car?
No, it won't affect the car, only the person trying to rob it.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
I just think it's a bit extreme, you know. It would worry me, you know, they're sort of getting to that sort of stage. But then if I had been hijacked, maybe I would change my mind.
Do they work?
Well, they burn the person who's trying to steal from you.
Well, if they work, I mean, that would be fine. It's nice to have something like that.
But not everyone thinks this is such a good idea. Graham Simpson counsels victims of violent crime every day. He feels criminals will take even more violent steps to avoid such devices.
New technology, I think, will potentially result in new preventive measures from criminals. If I was a criminal and I knew that someone potentially was going to toast me when I tried to steal their vehicle, I'd probably take them out before they got a chance. I think we're going to see more violence, not less.
We leave Johannesburg behind on our way to the capital city, Pretoria, and a potential medical breakthrough. Tuberculosis is a disease which has killed millions of people around the world. In developing countries like South Africa, the epidemic is still rampant, and treatments used in the West aren't always available here. Also, new strains of the bacteria are appearing, which are resistant to modern drugs. But the future to treating this disease could lie here, in African traditional medicine. TB is a disease of the lungs, and back in the 50s, modern medicine thought it was conquered. But now the bacteria is evolving, outwitting the very medicines that once used to combat it. In its most virulent form, it's being dubbed multi-drug resistant TB. With the disease getting ever more deadly, scientists are now turning to the past to come up with new ways to fight back. For centuries, local people have visited healers who use plants to treat their illnesses. And in South Africa, they have a rich resource. 10% of the world's plant species are found here. Traditional healers like Matlakala Mozewu believe they have healing powers. She grows the plants for her own remedies in her back garden.
The plants are good because you dig them straight out of the soil, from the soil. They are still fresh. Then you cook them for a person to drink. Then they are good. Everything which is from the soil, it's good.
Matlakala's ancestors taught her how to use local plants to treat ailments like coughing and fever, which are exactly what you get when you have TB. And in the future, it's the work of traditional healers like her that may hold the clue to treating the multi-drug resistant form of this disease.
Scientists have in the past often dismissed such work as superstition. But with the situation for diseases like TB turning critical, they're having to explore other avenues. And they're finding that there is indeed a scientific basis to many of the so-called alternative remedies.
Here at the University of Pretoria in the botany department, Namrita Lal is working in a team that believes modern medicine must learn from local traditions. She's working closely with healers such as Matlakala and using their knowledge of the healing powers of local plants. The team are trying to isolate an active compound from the plants that healers use in the treatment of coughs to attack the TB bacteria. It's a quest close to Namrita's heart, as she witnessed the misery that TB causes when she grew up in India.
One of my relatives had TB and I have seen her sufferings. A lot of substance which is used in modern medicine have originated from research on medicinal plants. So that's how I got interested.
Namrita has decided to focus her investigation by testing 20 plants traditional healers use to cure the symptoms of TB.
This is Helichrysum aureonatans, and it's one of the plants that Namrita is analysing in this laboratory. inside these delicate leaves could be a major new weapon in the fight against multi-drug resistant TB.
But to really test the plant's potency, Namrita must take the extract she's collected from it and other species to the TB laboratories at the Medical Research Council in Pretoria, where they face the ultimate challenge.
Inside this vial are millions of active TB bacteria. They're resistant to 7 major drugs, including antibiotics, making them potentially lethal, which is why we have to handle them inside this special vacuum cabinet.
Namrita very carefully removes some of the active TB bacteria and adds them to each of the different plant extracts. They're then left for 2 days. During this time, the plant extract, if it is active against TB, should kill the bacteria. To see which plants are effective, Namrita analyses the levels of bacteria remaining in each bottle. The lower the level, the more TB bacteria have been killed.
So what are the results showing?
Okay, here in some of the vials, the reading is quite high, 999.
All nines, yeah.
Which indicates that this plant extract is ineffective. Whereas in these vials, as you can see, the reading is low, which indicates that plant extract has inhibited growth of Mycobacteria tuberculosis.
It's a dramatic result. A plant from the Helichrysum everlasting family wipes out a strain of TB that's resistant to 7 modern drugs. The results are so impressive that a major drugs company is interested in taking Namrita's research further. This discovery may pave the way not only for a breakthrough in the treatment of TB, but scientists in South Africa are finding there may be potential cures for other diseases, such as malaria, from plants that grow all around them. It's time to wave goodbye to the blue train as we take to the road on the final leg of our journey.
We travelled to Madikwe, close to the Botswana border. It's here that they're creating a world first.
Madikwe is South Africa's largest new game reserve. They're setting it up from scratch. A few years ago, there were only cattle grazing here, as far as the eye can see.
Now the area is teeming with animals. There are over 13,000 here, from wildebeest, giraffes, lions and leopards, all feeding off the land and each other. So we're here to see how it all works.
Game parks are usually created by erecting a fence around animals that already live in an area, but not Madikwe. It's bursting at the seams with new inhabitants because it's the first park in the world to be set up by transporting huge numbers of animals into an area where few existed before.
To create an ecosystem like this takes the world's largest movement of wild animals, 8,000 of them so far into Madikwe, overseen by Dr. Marcus Hofmeyer.
First introductions were the herbivores, the prey base, and the sort of animals that can impact on the vegetation. That's why we brought the elephant and the herbivores in. And only once they'd established themselves could we consider bringing in the predators. It's the first time, to my knowledge, in the world that all the predators, spotted hyena, cheetah, wild dog, lion, have been translocated from another area into a new area.
By creating a whole new food chain here, Marcus is hoping to preserve the lives of some of the world's most endangered animals. Now, it's not only the glamorous creatures like these two big fellas they look after here. You'll also see the African wild dog, or the painted wolf as it's also known, Southern Africa's most endangered carnivore. Wild dogs like these have been hunted as pests by farmers, almost to the point of extinction. Marcus is reintroducing them into Madikwe, but now they face another threat, rabies. It's carried by the jackals already in the park. So he's employing science to try and save them by trialling the use of a domestic dog vaccine. After sedating the dog, we move in.
What are you doing to her? Okay, I'm just giving her the injection here into the muscle.
This is the first time wild dogs are being vaccinated, and Marcus is hoping to discover how often he needs to do this to keep them free of rabies. If he's successful, Madikwe could lead the way in saving the wild dog in southern Africa.
Local people are also benefiting from Madikwe's pioneering approaches. It's the first game reserve set up to bring wealth into a rural area by creating jobs, giving the people a stake in the park's survival. Projects like this bush clearing are essential for tourists to be able to see the game easily, but more importantly, they provide real jobs where few existed before.
Well, life has changed tremendously. You know, our communities are far from, working areas where they can get jobs. But ever since this park was built and some of our children came here and got jobs.
The future of Madikwe now depends on ensuring that the animals continue to thrive by keeping a constant check on how they're adapting to their new home. The park covers 600 square kilometres, so Marcus is turning to technology to help him monitor the animals. Now, one way to do this is on foot with Louis Liebenberg's Palm Top tracker. Another way is to use the most up-to-date radio communications technology and use radio and satellite collars. And that's what we're going to do today.
We're going to replace an elephant collar on a young bull that was brought in from another park. Now, he's happily integrated with the other elephants here. The problem is we have to find him first. So I'm going to go in the Jeep and Philippa is taking to the skies with Marcus there. See ya. One of Madikwe's most ambitious projects is to import whole families of elephants to create a sustainable population in the park. But once they're inside, it's vital for Marcus to check the herds are staying together as family groups and breeding. We've just had a call from Philippa that they've actually spotted the elephant from the air, so that's where we're heading off to now.
Although Marcus has sedated elephants with darts on many occasions, it always requires intense concentration. The dart hits home and Marcus knows he has to work fast to attach the collar and administer the antidote. If the elephant is down too long, its blood pressure and temperature will rise, putting its life at risk. The first task is to turn the elephant on its side to fit the collar.
Up. Careful when he falls over. Careful when he falls over. Philippa.
Yeah.
Breaths only if it goes lower than 4. You let me know, okay. Water on the ears, please.
The water is vital to keep the elephant's temperature down whilst the collar is being attached.
From the bottom.
Are you up against the clock, Marcus?
A little bit because of the heat, but he's nicely under anesthetic. He went down very, very nicely. I think we're in a very good situation here. Breaths. They're nice and deep?
Yes. 5 to 6 breaths a minute.
Okay, can you just hold the ear up like that for me quickly?
All right. Okay. We're going to see him up and walking soon?
Yeah. Everybody can get him back in vehicles.
Nice ear work.
Nice trunk work. As soon as he can, Marcus injects an antidote. And within seconds, the elephant rises to its feet.
With his new collar in place, he's off to rejoin his family, and Marcus is able to establish that the herd is staying together. This is yet another example of how science is contributing to the future of this country.
Well, that's all we have time for in this special edition of Tomorrow's World from the South African bush.
Next week, I'll be back in the studio with Peter. So until then, goodbye.
Bye.
Creating a blue boudoir in Aberdeen, changing rooms next tonight on BBC One, and on BBC Two, the naked chef heads for Chinatown in a couple of minutes. For an interactive view of the solar system, visit the planet's web